Bienvenidos al Real Estate Oasis Podcast. Esta semana vamos a estar entrevistando a Adan Garcia. No te olvides de darle like, comment y subscribe a nuestro video. Espero que tengan un buen día.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Oasis Podcast. I'm Maiki Paul of Axios Real Estate and Coupled Investments.
Félix Barreras from Lifeafar Capital.
Zachary, Postil from Puerto Rico. Robbie?
Hey guys, Robbie Crager from PR Consultants.
Perfect. So we have Mr. Senor Adan Garcia here, and we just kind of want to talk about, what's the name of your company?
Leverage Inc.
Leverage Inc. So I'm just really inspired by your story, and I'd really like if you could just kind of give us a little intro into how you came here and what you're doing.
Excellent. My name's Adam, Leverage Inc. I Puerto Rican parents, born and raised in New Jersey. Fast forwarding a whole bunch after doing regular retail real estate in Tampa Bay. Life changed, and at the age of 40, I came out here just on a prayer and deciding, what was next for my life. Just literally rented a house to ask God what was next, and within 3 days the answer was there, and we've managed up to 18 properties in the past 9 years in Puerto Rico.
Wow! Tell us about your first deal here in Puerto Rico. What year was it?
2012.
Okay.
2012. Literally coming off that mountain experience, it sounds big. There was people that had already asked me, "Hey, I have a house." They knew I traveled to Puerto Rico often. I have a house in Puerto Rico. Can you rent it for me? Can you find people for it? And I never had the avenue or the way to do it until that conversation that I got 3 days after renting that house and taking some time off to figure out what was next for my life. Once I got the avenue, I made 2 phone calls to people that had already asked me. One was my ex-mother-in-law, who had a little cabin house. Mm-hmm. She lived next door, sat there, and the family would use it when they would come. Called her and said, "We're gonna start renting that thing," and it was absolutely one of the best, the first and one of the best ones. That little house probably made over $1,200 a month, not including meals. Almost every house we've ever managed, the way we share our culture is that a local provides meals.
Nice.
Wow. So that's one thing that we've always tried to bring in, is tours, the local economy where people come and purchase, and we promote local businesses, and then we have, whether it be the owner or just any local, an auntie, anybody that brings in the flavor of the culture through meals.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah. So do you notice, people coming back and people staying loyal to your brand a little bit?
So because we've been able to create that, and our bio says all of that, it says that we're from New Jersey, that we came, that we're, what we're doing. What I mean by we is my wife is also a big part of the business. We had the second house, to answer that question. The second house we went to was a beach house, and that one we like big groups. So we have homes that sleep 50, 40, 18, 13.
Wow.
So, and we still currently have them, so we target groups. The third house we got was Casa Flor, to answer that question. That house, similar situation, the owners live next door. They don't know how to manage the computer. They called us, and we took it from zero to huge profit. A lot of the locals here would rather not rent conventionally. They're not, in the mountains, which is where most of my properties are. You would rent a home for $250, $300, $350. That still exists, which is beautiful for people wanting to move to Puerto Rico. Yeah. It definitely still exists, but a person, most of my customers, like I said, are older, and they don't necessarily need the money. They just want to make extra money. So they would rather leave it empty for their children to use when they come, rather than go into conventional renting, Section 8 and stuff like that. So
Right.
that when we come across, and I'm basically the nephew who never shows up to help them, we show up and we pretty much bring the infrastructure to the property. So the third property was one called Casa Flor. It is basically a garden, and the house sits right in it. And I'm using past tense because from COVID, a lot of my owners just dropped off and are not renting anymore. So that property, there was a young couple. There was two couples that were from San Juan, not locals, and they would frequent the property so much, and they would eat in the house with the elderly couple. Elderly couple speaks no English, but the children would call them grandma and grandpa. That's how often they came.
Wow.
It was absolutely beautiful how all of that's worked out. So for us, it's, we shared, we know we're sharing our culture and just creating these smiles. It's big for us.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you're also doing glamping, right? So
Yeah.
you've transitioned a little bit from buying these single family residences to doing glamping. Tell us a little bit about that.
So with Hurricane Maria, there wasn't a lot of renting, especially up in the mountains. A lot of people that were coming were government workers, so they weren't really looking for mountain properties. We basically became a different type of entrepreneur. We just started serving the communities because we weren't making money, but we had some money and we had the time because we weren't hosting. So I sent out a message to about 5 or 6 rescue companies, and I said, hey, I'm going to start a campground. It's just the only thing I could think of that would generate without needing electricity because we had none. And one gentleman bit on that, and he had 3 glamping tents, and he had a bill that he had to pay that he didn't have the money for, and that's where the glamp ground started. They were really good tents. About retail price was $4,500 for the tents. I bought them much cheaper, obviously. Got my staff, cleared 3 spots on the land, and started glamping. About 3.5 years now. The concept is absolutely spectacular. Just extra land that I was doing nothing with. And literally the way it's built is all my overhead for my whole life here in Puerto Rico gets paid by the glamping.
Wow.
That's
That's
awesome.
incredible.
Yeah, that's...
I'm wondering because I know that I heard a lot of Puerto Ricans trying to rent those out, and they're booked for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So is that like the case for you too, where you're like booked for in advance for a lot of months?
A lot of the key dates are rented out. The answer to that is because of COVID, it's different. The answer pre-COVID, the answer is absolutely. I mean, my staff was happy to have a break. When somebody wasn't renting, my staff has been with me 3 years, 5 years. They do really well because a lot of our cleaning staff is also our cooks.
Okay.
So there's weekends that they make more money than me.
Wow.
On a glamping tent and stuff like that, and that's how we built it, and that's what we love to do is for them to do well also. But so pre-COVID, absolutely, you could pop 22 to 26 nights out of anything.
Wow.
Because we own a lot of little homes. We own and manage a lot of little homes. So a little caveat is I try to stay under $100 for a family of 4 for a lot of little properties, and it's perfect. You just want them to have, our overhead is low. So you get to share that with a family that just wants to have a nice time away.
Gotcha.
Now, you've been doing this for a long time, since 2012.
Yeah.
What's the difference now going through that 2012? You were full on recession year, and fast forward to 2021, we're definitely not in a recession anymore. What's your thoughts on the way that growth has gone with the economy, and what it was then versus what it is now?
Well, I think back then there was a lot less competition in terms of the guest house environment, and I only take properties that are good and clean with great owners and stuff like that. So back then we did amazing, and now we do amazing. So I'm sorry, I don't know if that's the type of answer you were looking for.
No, that is the type of answer that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think if if you're respectful to the culture that's built around the home. We always partner with owners, and we want to create the environment that they want to create. Obviously, we tweak it. Casa Flor, he wanted it to be Rodriguez Hacienda, and I'm like, that doesn't sell a dime, And I asked him respectfully. I said, hey, I love your name. I know what you're trying to do, but if you allow us, we'll do this. The house was a huge hit. So I'm always going to try to do what they want, but bring it into a place where, for marketing purposes, it does well. And then once again, pre-COVID, I had no issue filling these things. And even now, it's not hard. It's just that, I know this sounds weird, but my staff is the boss. So right now, a lot of properties in Puerto Rico, due to the CDC, they leave. Like if I rent a weekend at one of the tents, I leave Friday and Monday off, just for the time for COVID purposes. A lot of people aren't doing that. I don't really even think that's a restriction anymore, but that's the restriction that my staff wants. So I don't bother with them if that's what they want.
Yep.
That's what we do for them to feel safe.
Sure.
But if that restriction wasn't there, I'd have no problem filling these places 20 nights again, just because the level of what we're offering. I think the large house where the glamping is, we have 3 rivers. I mean, we have 2 rivers and 4 waterfalls.
Gotcha.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
So that's huge. Anything we buy in Puerto Rico now in the mountains, I wouldn't buy anything that doesn't have a water source.
Yeah, that's pretty smart.
So how are you finding the owners that you want to work with? It sounds like some of the folks are just finding you through your networks, but are you also kind of just driving around the island finding things, or?
That's what I was telling Robbie. Like you said, I think a lot of things at this point, 9 years in, a lot of things are finding us. Thank God. But then I have what I call the waterfall property in Arecibo. That was my wife and I. We went to the river. We're afforded that quality of life in Puerto Rico. You're an hour away from a beach, no matter where you're at. If you're not 15 minutes away, we are able to take time off and enjoy. So anywhere we're going to visit, you see a sign, you see a property, you see an owner, and she's as bad as me or as good as me. She'll stop. Hey, let's stop there. Let's talk to them. And that's, you're just able to strike up a conversation. And as long as you're respectful and courteous and they see you care about them, you go in, take coffee. Much different than I think the hustle back home, where, it's 15 minutes and, if I know what you want, or I don't know. Here it's, I'm sitting with you for 2 hours, having a cup of coffee, getting to know you. And, I either made a friend or made a deal. So that's pretty much how that comes up. The waterfall property, they had a sign, and of course a real estate sign with a realtor. And I was a real estate agent for a lot of years, so I'm always trying to be as careful and respectful to that as. Oh, that's right, you're a realtor.
Yeah.
I saw the white hair of the older gentleman up there, and I said, hello, hello. He came down to the gate, got into a conversation, hadn't heard from his realtor for 3 months. And I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? And, he didn't, I love this story. He didn't let us in. He spoke at the gate, didn't know who we were. 3 months later, my dad comes into town, also older, and I went back. And I said, hey, Dad, I want to go see a property with you. In fact, I knew about that property because of my father. Because of the waterfall, he said, hey, there's this waterfall. And I'm like, Dad, that doesn't exist. It did. So I took my dad and we went back to the gentleman. Gentleman opened the gate and we were there for 2-3 hours. He's showing us the plans. He's showing us everything. After Hurricane Maria, same situation, because we just continue to come and visit as friends and be a part of their family. They said, hey, my kids don't want me to come back here. He was almost 80. And I said, great, let's sit and talk. I happened to be going to Florida for a trip. I went and I met the kids. That property will make us, between one thing and another, will make us $12,000 a month.
Wow.
That property alone. And all it was follow up and conversations.
You told me earlier off camera, what did you call it? Relationship arbitrage. Not a relationship. We're talking arbitrage here, but you said relationship real estate or
relational real estate.
Relational real estate.
Yeah,
That's the phrase you used. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I explained to you, a lot of what I feel I do here. Like when I was doing the bio for just this chat, I feel like I do a lot of legacy projects. Whatever people hope to do with their properties, they couldn't. With that, I either help them manage their dream and bring their home from zero to guest house to productive, or they sell and I still do the same thing. The waterfall property is that it has 4 apartments on a waterfall, 3 waterfalls on a river, fantastic property. They always wanted to do a guest house, but their kids live in the States.
They couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So same thing with 27 acres that we're looking for a partner with on that one. 27 acres in Utuado with a nice big house, about a mile drive in with a 4x4. They wanted to do something there, couldn't. Her health, she had to move, and they gave me a deal I couldn't say no to. And we also have a balloon on that one because I know that was important. People. I think it's good for people to know with the relational real estate, she didn't care for all the money up front, and I only knew that through conversation. She needed $20,000 down, and the rest I have a balloon. I don't have any payments on that one, just a balloon in 5 years.
Wow.
I owe her the balance.
Wow. But you do go so far as to like name these properties after them, or you create their legacy for them, even if they couldn't do it and they've sold you the property.
Yeah,
you're setting it up in a way that they're going to be proud of it.
Yeah, in that particular case, the grandkids really wanted to buy the property.
Okay.
And she didn't want issues with the grandchildren, so she didn't want to have whether they could pay or not pay. And for me, because I heard what she wanted, their family, their immediate family, will always have access. Any week they want to come, their week is for free at that property.
Nice.
And they'll be able to see what their grandfather and grandmother built for them.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
That's a pretty insightful way to negotiate a real estate transaction and build something the family can be proud of and invite them back and have them always coming back saying, hey, this was grandma's place. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I said, overhead's low, so you lose a week or two, as long as they don't ask me for Christmas and 4th of July. You know what I mean?
Certain restrictions apply.
Yeah, certain restrictions. Because you still got to make money. But yeah, it just seems like what's come our way. I mean, maybe that's what we gravitate to or what gravitates to us.
How have you, comparing again back to 2012 versus now? Obviously, tourism in Puerto Rico has slowly been growing in the last couple of years. How have you seen that impact on your properties in terms of average daily room rates and then like occupancy rates for yourself?
It's about the same, I think, because I wouldn't say we cherry pick projects, but we only work with owners or our own properties that give something different. Okay. So we're kind of always in a good position to rent. I think the hardest time was right when COVID started. Yeah. And then right after Maria. Okay. Outside of that, in Puerto Rico, if you've got a nice product and you've got great reviews and you're doing a good job and you're there's not much that you can't touch that won't make money. Yeah. Real estate wise, if that's what you choose, if hosting is what you choose to do.
Gotcha.
So it's been like that for a decade then. So because I get here and my experience is that anything that I want to do. So if I want to come and flip a house, I can do that. If I want to come and start a glamping site, I can do that. If I want to have an ice cream store, I can do that. It'll all make money. It sounds like it's been like that for a long time, in your opinion.
Absolutely. I also saw one of the interviews they did with you, and you were talking about how many rooms Santo Domingo has, as opposed to Puerto Rico. We come on over. There's plenty. I've never had issues not filling my places. Right. Once again, it's just got to be a good product. I was definitely worried because of the influx of the amount of investors and the amount of guest homes coming in. But I think just those God-given formulas that I have under 100, for certain properties, and just great owners or just great staff. We've been able to stay above. When I started on using the different sites, because everybody calls them Airbnbs, but there's so many different sites that do this. If you're just using one, you're losing income. When I started, there was probably 2,500. Remember, Airbnb was 4 years old when I started.
Yeah.
So now they're 13 years old, which is, now they're a monster, beautiful monster. And, there was probably 2,500 properties, and not all online. There was probably 1,200 when I started.
Wow.
But yet people were obviously traveling. Now, then as things started growing in Puerto Rico, I would see 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. You're thinking, oh my God, how am I going to stay competitive? It's not been an issue.
No issue.
With as many different properties, and most likely because of what you're saying. Honestly, there was probably an issue. People weren't coming to Puerto Rico because we didn't have the rooms.
Right.
Yeah.
And with this transition into being able to vacation in someone's house and in what we've created for you to come to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's spectacular. I don't think anybody's really hurting unless, of course, you don't know how to price them, and stuff like that.
You described a cross between a traditional bed and breakfast and an Airbnb and a glamping site, all kind of rolled into one and in the middle of a mountain paradise. So I can see why people would want to come.
Yeah.
and then you've got the neighborhood cooking and stuff. I mean, I want to go do that. That sounds great.
Awesome. You're welcome. You're welcome. That particular home. This might be a good thing. Being able to have been the manager for a lot of these properties, my own personal largest home accommodates 40 guests. That property.
Wow.
That property, I did home retention, regular real estate. It was a nonprofit organization that was from New York. They had this property. They didn't want to leave it with a local to just take care of it. They wanted a company to take care of it. They found us. They actually stayed at one of the other homes that I rented, and they needed lamp oil because the electric went out. I went down. It was an attorney, two young ladies, and I just happened to ask, "Hey, what are y'all doing here?" Because it was two women in the middle of the mountains, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna shut down a place and give away a Jeep." And I'm like, "Well, I got tomorrow off." You know what I mean?
I need a Jeep.
Yeah. It's the vehicle. I've bought 3 homes with vehicles.
Really?
Wow. Absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fantastic. So they told me, and I said, "Do you need help tomorrow?" And I got my tallest, because I didn't know how abrasive firing some people was going to be. So I got my tallest employee, and we went over, told them to leave. They didn't know who we were. Long story short, we did home retention for about a year. It was just watching, sending a report once a month. Pictures, everything's fine, everything's well. Finally, because they're a nonprofit, I felt bad taking their money. That's just me. I'm like, this is a beautiful property. At that point, it was 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. Right now, that property is 7 bedrooms, 4 baths, just the house, and then the glamping on the other side. So it's basically 9 bedrooms, 6 baths, the whole property.
Wow.
And you can rent the whole place as one, which is how I'm promoting it right now. Or you can just rent the glamping because it's on the other side and rent. And then, you have the waterfalls and you have that whole property. So long story short, they decided to host, which made me feel better because basically I became for free. I basically worked for my amount of money. And then they just wanted out. I tried to sell this property on the regular channels, unlicensed, just try to help them, promote it, marketing and do different things, and no locals would bite on it. And finally they said, "We want you to buy it." And I came up with money. I found an investor. The price I never say, but that property pre-COVID would make $12,000 a month.
And you expect to be back there this year or next year?
Yeah. I mean, even now it still makes $7,000.
Okay.
Wow.
With COVID, because of the groups. We're able to we market for groups.
Yeah.
We have a lot of humanitarian groups that have come with us, that have been with us for 4 or 5 years.
Gotcha. In terms of I like that you're bringing the Puerto Rican culture through like the culinary scene. Like what type of food do you offer like in those?
I'm gonna give
those
you.
experiences.
I'm gonna give the listeners one of my biggest secrets. No menu. Basically, it's an extension of their table, and that's how I sell it.
Awesome.
And people love it. Believe it or not, they don't even ask.
Mhm.
They just know they're gonna eat local food. And if someone's with us for 2-3 nights, they'll order 2 or 3 dinners. They know that they want to adventure and then come back home and eat, and know that we're gonna deliver between 6 and 6:30. The local's gonna come and they're gonna hand it to them. Most of them don't speak English. They're gonna smile, and then when they do speak Spanish or they try, it's just all part of the experience we're trying to build. They serve coffee. Fruit, anything. If they can get the stuff off the trees in their own farm, obviously we love that, and the guests love it. It's been a staple since day one. Like I said, a lot of this came off of prayer and asking God what was next. I could go out and start selling, or I can ask Him what He wanted me to do, and this is what I had permission to do, and I love that we do it.
I love that. This is what God's given me permission to do.
Yeah, and so we're we love what we do. The most is like if someone's vegan, because obviously Puerto Ricans, we love our meat. They'll make an adjustment for that, and we don't charge any more for that and stuff like that. I just took on a small property on the other side of the river where I live, and the lady was vegan, so they made pork chops for the guy, and they catered to her need. We definitely try to make that difference, but there's no menu at all, and people love the concept.
That's awesome.
With Casa Flor, like I said earlier, they would go and eat at their home, which is the only home that ever did that, and I found out afterwards that they did it. But they would invite them. Ephraim would go and smile and say, "Come on," and they'd come and they'd eat, and they would just serve them, and it was just an experience for the guests. A lot of people love that, and then some guests would say, "Hey, I'd rather have it here," and they would take it to them.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It sounds like many of your projects are in beautiful mountainous regions. Are you just buying houses that are completely done? Or are you doing some work in them? And how do you manage that?
Personally, most of my projects have been in the owned product is in Arecibo, Lares, and Utuado. So I moved the team that I've had for 5 years. I basically, they're handymen. If I need a little bit more muscle, I have the people to hire. And we've been there for so long that, we pretty much know what it takes we know who works and who doesn't work. And it works out. I wouldn't say no to anything that makes sense anywhere in the island, because the same way I found those crews there, I'll find them somewhere else. I think being raised Puerto Rican, although I was born and raised in New Jersey, and there's a lot about my culture that I've learned to respect living here now. But I think if you treat people right, it's just the golden rule. I could almost guarantee that I can find a crew anywhere, because I'm going to pay them well, respectably. I'm going to treat them with respect, and I pick up a property anywhere.
That's great for me to hear, because there's this beautiful property I love in the Rio Grande area, and it was just like, it had a beautiful view of the back of El Yunque, and I could just envision, a great bed and breakfast there, but got nervous about, constructions. You had to take a little road to get there, and I was just like,
oh no.
And my husband was like, how are we going to get the crews up here? Who's going to want to come and work on this? But it sounds like, you find the people and you make it work. So I might have to see if that's still available.
I definitely encourage you to, there's, of course, there's not, we've all probably been stuck in finding a contractor as immediately as we want that dollar to come and we want that person to show up. I don't have that urgency for almost any of my projects. They're going to come along when they do, and you do your due diligence and you work, and they'll always show up. You won't have. I wouldn't say no to anything I want. I would find a way to buy it, and the logistics will come. They will come together.
Those are inspiring words. I'm going to take those to heart. Thank you.
Yeah. So you were going to tell us about what your thoughts are on the economy moving forward, and the tourism moving forward.
My perception with what's happening in Puerto Rico is that, for better or for worse, at one point these prices are, the prices are going up. I think now is the time to buy. I think there'll always be deals. I started 9 years ago, and you used the word earlier, deals of a lifetime. That I think that we were able to capture. Do I still think they're out there? You guys are finding them every day. We're finding them every day. So I think they'll be around for a while. But I also believe that if we continue this track, 10 years from now, I don't think you'll find a $100,000 house, is my opinion. So, in that same house right now, I can find it for 40, 50, 60, 70. So I just think it's the best time. The Puerto Rico's primed right now for, everything I'm learning from you all. When I started, I didn't, Act 74, I had no idea what it was. So just to have groups like you all have put together, and to have that little bit of guidance, and maybe more paid guidance if you guys provide that with the consulting company. Obviously, we do something similar, but your scale and your system and using investment capital and all that is a little different than how I do it. So I just think things are growing and growing and growing and growing, and now's the time to get in.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
That's my opinion. I'm buying everything that I can possibly buy. I've never done joint ventures, and just because I've walked away, similar to your deal, I don't know the numbers on it, but prior to groups like yours showing up, I can tell you 10 properties that I just, they were above what my pocket can afford, and I had to walk away from them because I had no one with deep enough pockets to be able to capture them. One of them was a cliff property in Quebradilla, and it was an old hotel, 8 bedrooms. The guy wanted $150,000 cash.
Oh my gosh.
$185,000 cash.
Yeah.
And he had just got burnt by a company that rented from him, and there was no way he was going to rent to me, lease option. He wasn't going to do anything else. But that property, the closest, every property next to him is $650,000.
Right.
Wow.
185 cash. He wanted it, and he was older, had plenty of money. He was at the moment that he just didn't want anything to do with the property, and I couldn't match the money to the deal. So
there's a lot more opportunity now for collaboration and partnership. So I mean, in the atmosphere that we have here, if you find that deal again, well, one, come to me.
Yeah.
But two, there's a whole group of people with the REIA or just people showing up that have the same kind of mindset you do, and maybe they don't have something, they'd love to have you manage it, and they put up the money for it, where that didn't exist before.
I'm seeing that. It's a little hard for that to fit in my mind, because I'm not used to that, but I'm trying to learn quickly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn quickly. And back to the question you asked earlier with how am I finding them? Of course, some of them have come to you. I gave the story about the waterfall property with the realtor sign, and I spoke to the gentleman. And because we live here, I can go to the river one day and I see something and I like it, and you stop, you talk and stuff like that. So I almost stopped until I started seeing your groups. I just stopped talking to owners. I just stopped wasting my time, because there was a number that was just out there that was beyond my reach. I had put my investment capital into a few different things, and I was building my capital again. And I'm back out there. I'm back looking for properties, and then I'll figure out the logistics later. I know who to call.
Beautiful.
I really believe that if you have a great deal, the money's the easy part. It historically has been, and I don't think that's necessarily been the case since you started in 2012, maybe in the middle of a depression. But now, as we're coming out of that, it really will. You can start to believe that, and that will be true. That
Yeah.
if you have a great deal, Felix, then the money will follow you. If you're
Yeah.
looking for the money and the money won't come, reassess your deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
That's
the way
great.
that it is.
That's
I
awesome.
agree.
That's good. That's really good. Lesson learned.
So tell us where can people find you?
Cell phone. I love WhatsApp. If I need sugar for my coffee, I ask for it on WhatsApp. 813-263-7722. That's really the best thing. Text or message. I will get back to you.
Do you have some products, Airbnb or otherwise, that you want to attach below the video? We can put links.
Yeah, I can
to your
send
stuff.
my because I run the Airbnbs through a business. I can send my
Perfect.
my landing page on Airbnb.
That's great.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's great.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate your time. And you want to take us out, Maiki?
Yeah, thanks for joining in on another episode of the Real Estate Oasis podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, subscribe, like, share, and we look forward to seeing you at next week. Thanks.
Gracias por ver nuestro video. Espero que le haya gustado la entrevista con Adan Garcia. No te olvides de dar like, comment y subscribe a nuestro video. Gracias.